told my brother I wouldn't do a burnout. So here's about you about to do a burnout. Oh, that was lame. Hey everybody, this is Tom at Rocket Restorations, and I've been teasing everybody about getting the ultimate C-body in here for a long time, and well, there's two coming in this week that are good candidates for that mantle, and we're going to go over this one today. And what makes this one the ultimate C-body? I'll give you a hint. It has the right amount of pedals. So this is a 1965 Chrysler 300L. I really like these cars, always been a huge fan of them. My dad had one for a while. We did a video on it last year, and they're just like the height of Chrysler build quality. 1965 like was just a really good year. Like, they hadn't gotten to plastic yet, they hadn't started cheapening stuff up. These are just super quality cars. So let me show you some pictures of it, or videos, pictures of it coming off the transporter. This came from Louisville, Kentucky, and we bought it from the original owner. This guy's good. Getting an 18-wheeler semi right to my door. Gold Barracuda on top. We're not getting that one. I'll show you some of the paperwork in a minute, but it's really cool. This thing has the original certicard. Still has the original owner's address on it, and that's where it was picked up. The thing had always lived at the same address its entire life. Even has the dealer sticker on it, swope from Louisville, Kentucky. They're actually still in business. I need to contact them and maybe see if they have any paperwork on the car. I've got the original invoice for it and some other stuff. But yeah, the 1965 Chrysler 300L. So this is the last of the letter series. So the Chrysler 300 letter series started in 1955 with the C300, and then 56 was the 300B, and then 57 was the 300C, and on and on and on until the last year was 1965 with the 300L. So most of the 300 cars were unique. They had, you know, dual carbs, cross rams, they had all sorts of fun stuff. Well, 65, they kind of, I don't want to say dumbed it down a little, that's not really the right word. In 64, it was standard to have the single 4-barrel with the 413, and then it was the optional short ram, cross ram motor with the big things, you know, the big intakes on the other side. In 65, they were all 413 models, with the 4-speed being optional. The 4-speed is extremely rare on these things, but they're really cool. They have the unsilenced air cleaner, they're 360 horsepower, and of course this one is a 4-speed, which is, you know, just kind of brings it over the top. It really does. So, all right, well, we're going to go over a few things, check a few things out in this car, make sure everything's safe to start. It has Fury tires on a Chrysler. So now we're going to start doing our checks before we fire it up. So Evan took the cap off. Look at the fluid. It, I've seen worse, but I've definitely seen better. I think it's okay to start up on, but we definitely want to get all of that out and fully bleed the brakes. But again, for startup, I'm not too worried about that. We tried the accelerator pump and there's nothing coming out, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That means most of the gas in the carb is evaporated off. We don't really want bad gas in there anyways. So what we're gonna do when we try to fire this up is we're gonna unhook the fuel line when we try to fire it up, and then see what comes out. But we're also gonna throw a camera down the tank and just see what it looks like. Obviously want to check oil. It actually looks, would you focus? Doesn't want to focus. Oil actually looks pretty good. Looks fairly fresh, but it is a little over full, which is not a surprising thing on something that's been sitting for a little while. Gonna throw a battery charger on here for a little while before we fire it up. It's a very interesting battery hold down setup. The stack of 10 washers to make that work on top. Probably the rod's too thin. The hook's on backwards too. It's pointed at the battery. We're not supposed to do that. Let's see how many volts the battery has. And we're at 0 volts. That's not great. Okay, so when it's at 0 volts, it's not going to take a charge. Trust me, previous experience. My charger's also going to think this is 6 volt. It's not going to charge. So it's time to just get a fresh battery for this. So I think I'm going to steal the one out of the Lancer for the moment, because I think that's the only good battery we have around here right now. And of course, want to pull the cap, see how the points look, and there's no points. Looks like it's Pertronics, which I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this. I get it. You don't put electronic on it. You don't have to have a ECU. It gets rid of the points, but I've had a lot of problems with these over the years. So that's also why it probably has a flamethrower coil. All right, let's check the radiator. 13-pound cap. I believe this should be a 14-pound cap. Moto Rad. I don't think that's the right cap. It is pretty empty in there. I'm gonna have to get some 50/50 coolant and top that off. Core, a little bit of flaking in there. It's not fantastic. This thing definitely has some very impressive old man stuff done to it. In addition to a bunch of the gauges inside, it actually has a hood lock. I think it's electronic, so there's a cable here with a wire. So the bolt goes out, and then there's a bracket up here to lock the hood. Because otherwise, you know, there's no inside hood release on these. It's just this thing right here to release the hood. So that secures everything. So C-Body's uses a unique battery hold down kit where it actually has a stud that goes through the core support with a nut on there right there. So on most other cars, there's two hooks, one on this side, one on this side, but C-Body's just a little bit different. All right, I'm gonna take this thing out. This will make a good core to get a new battery tomorrow. My brother's coming down tomorrow to get new tires for this thing and a new battery, and he'll take care of all that tomorrow. Hold down off, and I'm throwing it in the interior, and I just noticed, bam. Boy, when you have an original car that's never been wrecked, it's amazing how well these things were built. This thing is built like a vault. Wow, that positive did not want to come off. I had to use the big screwdriver, pry it open and pry it off. I was kind of afraid I was going to bend it. I don't like these clamps. I'm not a huge fan of them. It's a big spot for corrosion on these, but the fact that there's not much corrosion on each of these terminals actually makes me feel pretty good about how this is all set up. Of course, the battery was left hooked up, which is something you never want to do, and that's why the battery's probably at 0 now. New battery in, and for now I'm just not going to put a hold down on it. We're not going to be doing any smoky burnouts with this today, so it should be good to go. I'll put a hold down on later when we get a proper battery for it. Let me check power steering. Empty. Yeah, I'm going to top that off a little bit. One thing Evan usually does is he just uses a Gatorade bottle. So what we'll do is we'll pour some fresh gas down the carb and see what comes out of the gas tank. I'm going to put a camera down the tank now just to see what it kind of looks like, and then we'll go from there. I think another cool part about these L's is where the gas tank is. Is it behind the license plate? Nope. It's in a secret compartment underneath here. And they actually have turned aluminum finish panel with the L logo there. Really neat how they did the branding on these. Okay, this is actually a pretty easy tank to get a camera into. It's just a straight shot in the tank, just right down the tube. Got my trusty camera on a stick here. The best Harbor Freight offers. Actually has pretty good resolution on it. Another kind of cool thing about these leather cars, they always had these rubber mats on them. They're very unique to the 300 leather car. And they didn't put it in when they put the new carpets in because they're very difficult to put in. I've done it before, but at least they saved them. We're definitely gonna put those in this car. Just gotta talk to my upholstery guy about it. All right, the filler tube looks pretty good. Okay. Looks like it's maybe been lined at some point. There's actually quite a bit of gas in there, which I don't like, but it doesn't smell too bad. Definitely a little bit of scale in there. There's actually quite a bit of gas in there, which I am not a huge fan of. I may try to see if we can drain some of that out. Well, we'll see how much we can get in the Gatorade bottle and get rid of. The thing is soaked in gas, which it will not focus on, but it actually doesn't smell too bad. Evan just found that in the core support. That's kind of weird. I've heard of having spare parts in the car, but not usually put it in front of the radiator. Evan keeps on finding more stuff in the core support. Okay, rolled it outside. There's two reasons for this. First of all, if something catches on fire, I don't want to burn the shop down. B, I've started a lot of cars that have been sitting for a while, and you never know what's gonna come out of the exhaust. I've had mouse nests come out, I've had live mice come out of there before. It's, yeah. So we're gonna close the shop door here and see what happens. Always a good idea to have a fire extinguisher too. Okay, so those little vents on top of the carb, you can put a little gas in there and it'll run for a little bit. We're not gonna put too much in here because basically we're gonna see what comes out of the tank when it goes into the bottle here. So we'll just prime it a little bit. Choke looks like it's working. Trev's gonna do the honors of turning it over so I can get some film. Okay, go ahead, Trev. Wow. That fired right up.
Did it come out?
Yep, a little bit. Yeah, it does seem like there's an exhaust leak. That was really, really loud. Yeah, let's unhook the coil wire. Okay, so we're gonna turn it. It sounded like it had a little bit of top end noise, which is not unusual for this because, you know, the lifters are a little dry. So we're going to unhook the coil wire and try to turn it over a couple times. Trev says the clock even works. Well, the fuel pump works really, really well. So we turned it over a couple times to try to build up some oil pressure to it, and The gas doesn't look too bad. I've definitely seen worse before. I think we're just gonna run this gas. I think it's okay. We'll put some fresh gas down the carb, and but I'm not too worried about it. I've definitely seen a lot worse before. It's smart. That fuel line's working great. Okay, I think we're just gonna hook up the fuel line and see what happens. All right, here's a top tip. Don't hit your head on the fang. It really hurts when you hit it. Okay. Trev says wear a hat. Okay, so we got fuel line hooked up. I don't think I even need to really prime this thing that much because the fuel pump's working so well. All right, give it a go, Trev.
There you go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Still hear a little bit of top end noise. May be an exhaust leak too. Yeah, there's definitely some lifter noise. It's a fun point when all the oil burns off the exhaust manifolds. It's idling, top end noise is going away. That's good. Aftermarket horn works. Nope. Lots of smoke. Alright, we probably let that burn off. Hope that's just condensation. Thing hasn't been sitting for a while. We did put a little marble in. Top end noise is going away. That's a lot of smoke. It's all good. Nothing's on fire. Okay, I just want to state for the record that this is not cool. You know, if you're a shop, you shouldn't put stickers all over somebody's car. There's one in the door jamb too. It's kind of a shitty thing to do. I would never do that. Heat stub down there is making a bunch of racket, so what that's designed to do is close when you fire it up. So it forces exhaust gas through the heat crossover under the carburetor so the car warms up faster. But, you know, after 60 years, it tends not to work so good anymore. I'll have to look at that. It has a volt gauge in the console, and we were looking at that, and it was like 17, 18 volts. We put a multimeter on it. It's charging at like 16.9, which is a lot. So, yeah, we're gonna have to look into that before we drive this thing because I don't want to cook the battery. So these are the right hubcaps for it. Luckily, my dad had 2, and I have 1. I need to go back and look at my pile and see if I have any more. But obviously, we need 4 to put them on the car. To me, the best part about this thing, I mean, obviously, 4-speed 300L convertible, you know, drop top. It's, you know, blue on blue on blue with a blue top, which I've never seen on an L before. I know it was optional. I've never seen it before, but just how loaded this car is. This thing even has power vent windows. And the thing is, everything works. Well, okay, I shouldn't say everything works. That's kind of a loaded statement, but I think the radio is the only thing I found that hasn't worked yet. But look at this. If you're too lazy to crank your own vent windows, works great. AM FM radio, power antenna, 4-speed of course. It's supposed to have a tack in the middle here. Unfortunately, it does not. I don't know why. Like, he kind of old man this thing out. It has a vintage RPM air guide tack, and it's got a economy vacuum gauge on it too. Real simple gauges on these. The one thing that really bothers me about the 300L and basically 65 through 68 Chryslers in general is they didn't have a temperature gauge, which is really, really annoying. I don't know why. They just never put a temperature gauge on it. I really wish they would have. They just have a cold at start, and then that's basically it. But I mean, look at that. Even the clock still works. Look at the arm going around. This thing is awesome. It has a trunk release as well. If I can get the glove box open. I mean, look at that. Even all the original service stuff's in there. All the registrations and receipts. Okay, I think I found it. I think it's right there. But I think it has to be running to work because it's vacuum actuated. But really cool option. You hardly ever see that. This thing's in pretty good condition. It has been repainted at some point, but dash pad's really nice. There's a bunch of receipts for it. Apparently he bought NOS seat covers in 78, which I don't know why he needed to replace the seat covers in 78, but he replaced the seat covers in 78. Fortunately, the rear window is really, really bad. There's still plastic on these. They didn't go to glass till 67, 68, I think. I know 69s were glass, but it's, yeah, I can't even see out the back of it, so we're definitely gonna have to change that out. All right. It starts right up. I think the shifter needs to get adjusted. It's kind of hard to find the gears and hard to find neutral. The reverse is like way over there. It's almost like hitting the console. That's first right there. Bolt gauge is definitely overcharging a bit. I gotta look into that. Tack works. I don't know if this is coincidental or on purpose, but it almost looks like the Ford look logo there. You're not missing yourself. The mirrors are in the wrong place. They're supposed to be on the doors. They kind of look like Ford look late mirrors. This one's remote over here. I don't think that one's remote because I haven't found it. There's the hood lock right there. Kind of neat. So you can lock that. I showed that earlier. The foam's starting to go in the seats a little bit, which is pretty common on these. All that yellow stuff on the ground is just miscellaneous foam. All right, I'm not gonna go for a test drive because the tires on this thing are pretty scary, but just show you how it sounds. Clutch feels really, really good. Yeah, this thing's a rocket ship waiting to go on. We're gonna do tires on it tomorrow, and I'll take it for a test drive. It's a little scary going backwards on this thing because hi everybody, because you can't really see out the back. You kind of have to use the rearview mirrors. One thing I did want to try is the top. I haven't had a chance to try that out yet. So pretty simple on these. 2 latches on either side. Release right there. Release right there. And then there's a top lift switch. And it's very important to make sure the car is running when you do this. It takes a ton of power to run this thing. All right, I'm actually gonna get out while we do this because I want to make sure it doesn't like wrinkle or fold the top when I go down. Top works.
Crack the window?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's getting replaced anyway, so.
Well, here, come back down.
Yeah, the window's trying to fold itself up. We're gonna try to fix that. Top works. You got a convertible, you gotta put the top down, right? And one piece of weather stripping came off. It's actually in the trunk. I'll have to replace that. Actually, the original part number on it. All the windows work too. So the window just zips down on the top, then there's Velcro over here. And it's a really good idea to do that. Again, we're gonna replace this, but it's here for right now, and I want a complete top while we still have it. So it's good to try to preserve this, but it's pretty brittle just because it's so sun-baked. Trev's cleaning it right now. It's not making that much of a difference. Okay, all down with the boot. Although I don't know if that's gonna fit because that looks pretty shrunk.
In the sunshine.
But yeah, it's good to do this on a nice warm day. Well, time to give this thing a little bit of a bath. My brother Gary's here today. He's the one who technically bought this, but you know, possession 9/10 of the law, blah blah blah. Let's get it cleaned up. Fortunately, we put the top down yesterday the first time, and we put the rear window down so we didn't destroy it, even though it's gonna get replaced anyways. And zipper doesn't want to zip back up, so he's just gonna have to be really careful washing this so we don't get a bunch of water on the inside. Okay, Gary got it all washed up. She looks all pretty now. Now we're gonna go on the left and see what she looks like underneath. So my brother's gonna go get new tires on this thing. So we're putting up on the lift, getting all the hubcaps and the skirts off. But let's see how she looks underneath. Looks like they painted everything black. Torque boxes. Exhaust looks pretty nice. Kind of looks like an accurate exhaust kit. I don't know if it is or not, but they have the correct. C-bikes have a mid pipe on them to the muffler. Oh, that looks really nice. It's very solid underneath here. What is that? A lot of people don't know this, but in 65, they went from a ball and trunnion, which is this setup. So there's a little rubber boot in there, and it kind of goes back and forth, and then it bolts on. But all the automatics in 65 went to a slip yoke, which has a yoke that goes in and out and slips out. The 4-speed didn't get the slip yoke until 1966, so that is correct for this. And I think this wiring is like a drive shaft sensor or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. And while we got on the lift and all apart, we're gonna go ahead and inspect everything. So the big things you wanna inspect here are the axle seals. So you wanna see if there's any evidence of oil in there, because it's real common, and it's usually the passenger side that goes. No, it's usually the driver's side that goes. Because when you're driving down a road, they're usually crowned to the right a little bit. So that this side generally starves for oil more than the other side. But I think that looks pretty good. Wheel cylinders look good. Pads look good. Evan just said that was the best drum he's ever seen come off before. So far so good. We're gonna pull out the front drums too, inspect the brakes up there, and probably go ahead and repack the bearings while we're at it too. But we'll see how they look. If they look okay, we'll probably just let it go. It does have a sugar grip, which is really nice, 323, although there's like 0 end play. So we're gonna take a look at that, because that ain't right. 742 case, the heavy duty one. Evan's taking the front drums off here, and I don't know, looks pretty good so far. See what the bearings look like. But these guys maintain this car pretty well, and everything looks pretty good so far. Yeah, grease basically looks brand new in here, so just throw a little more in and we should be good. Drum pads look good. So he kind of over greased everything. There's just kind of grease oozing out from every hole, which I guess is good. That's what you want to do. Okay, this is kind of annoying though. The bleeder screw is like against the knuckle spindle. Not quite sure how you're supposed to get that loosened up and try to get a hose over that, but so Evan's took basically all the old fluid out of the master, cleaned all the rust out of it, and then we have this special little cap system that we use to bleed the brakes. So you put that's full of brake fluid, you pressurize it up, and then it makes it real easy to bleed the brakes. We're gonna flush the whole system out. They never look better underneath, do they? Man, see, he drove by a bush a bunch of times and like scratched the quarter panels. I don't know. This is kind of cool too. So they, when they were doing factory undercoating, they quarter panel there. It's kind of cool. Just kind of painted over. It's got the tab there. It means it's original. The repos never have that stuff. But yeah, looks really clean underneath. I need my brother to get a vacuum out because all these spider nests are going to start hatching here pretty soon once they come inside. Last thing I need is an army of spiders from Kentucky going through my shop. That sucks. That's a typical tow car guy, tow person thing. Yeah. So they tie it down and rip out the frame rails. Tried to follow this wiring. I think it was probably for cruise control or something like that. I'm not sure what else it would be. Bunch of leaks. The lower shift tower's leaking like crazy. This valve cover's leaking over here, and the steering box is too. So we'll definitely have to do some, give some attention there. This is a little bit unfortunate. They have screws holding the trim on. There's really no way to fix that. You kind of got to take it off, fill the holes, and find the right clips to put the trim back on. Gas tank looks really good. Kind of wonder if that's original or if that's been replaced, but ow, that's my head. Yeah, don't hit your head on the shock. I've showed this on the channel before, but this is a really, really neat tool. So this is basically what's a coating thickness gauge. It basically kind of x-rays the paint and tells you how much paint's on there, how much body filler, to the metal. It's a really, really good tool to see where touch-ups have been. We're gonna find out if this is original paint or not, because this gauge does not lie. Gauge is pretty simple. Just turn it on, let her boot up. And then what you do is you just press that onto the metal and it tells you how thick it is. 1.8, that's excellent. That means that's original paint. 2.2, basically under 3 is kind of what you're looking for. So 7, that means there's probably been some touch up there. No, 3.5, that might have just been a, 3.5 is good. There's definitely a paint touch up here. You can kind of see the cloudiness in the paint there. Let's see what that ends up being. 3.1, interesting. 4.6, yeah, there's definitely some paint touch up there. Okay, let's check this side. 3.4, 2.9. Yeah, that looks pretty good. It's just interesting because that looks like the original blue underneath where the skirt was, and then that looks like a little deeper blue, but I don't know. This gets exposed, this doesn't, but it looks a little more purple on the paint there. I don't know. Let's see what the meter says here. Oops. 2.3, 2.6, 1.2 there. I don't know. Sure looks like original paint to me. Other places I always check is you always want to check the dog legs on the fenders. That's a real common rust spot. They had to get fixed. I mean, 2.6, that all looks good. Yeah, I think we include this thing's original paint. Very cool. I didn't think it was, but gauge don't lie. Just wanted to share some of the really cool paperwork we got with the 300 too. And I don't think I've ever actually shown one of these before. So this is super, super cool. I actually collect these. I have a lot of them. I've found like 4 or 5 in attics of dealers. But what this is it's basically an old school like credit card thing. And what this was for the warranty form. So they would stick the warranty form in here, and there was a square up here for the owner information and a square up here for the dealer name. So this is obviously a different dealer. This is from Baggett Motors over in Palouse, Washington. I got this a while ago, the 72 region and the dealer number. And then here's the certicard for the car. So the VIN's up there. Obviously I've crossed off the owner's info. It came from the same house. They still live at the same address. I don't want to share the name on here. It was delivered on 4/27/65. Trans is 4-speed. Axle SG means sure grip. Power steering for PS. PB for power brakes. C45 is That's the body number. Oh, the 413 on the first is 413. Sorry. C45 is the first couple of the VIN, first three of the VIN. P4B is the trim, so that is seat. And then EE1 is the blue paint. And then it was sold at Swope Motors in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And this is basically gave the dealer basic information about the car. So when it came in for service, they would know what the engine is. They would know it was power steering. They know if it was a sure grip. These certicars got changed a bit over the years. In 66, they went to this style. But 64, 65, this is when they used it. And it was generally put in the owner's manual. From 66, 67, there was a pocket in the engine bay where they sat. But yeah, I just thought I'd share this with you. It's pretty cool. I've got a bunch of these dealer identification cards, and I collect them. You ever seen any of them? You know, I'd love to buy it from you if you have any. Let me show you some of the other paperwork that came with this thing. Here's the original invoice from them too. April 1965, how much they paid for it. Optional equipment, total price almost $6,000. That was a lot of money in 65. And Swope Motors, and it has the VIN on it, model, and convertible. And then there is the original owner's manual here, which is pretty cool. This has the owner's information in it as well. This is cool tool. So it's actually a letter from Chrysler from 65 to the new owner saying, welcome to the car. Welcome to the club of owning a Chrysler. Owner's manual is super cool. So yeah, the back here in the owner's manual actually has the vehicle identification with the VIN, delivery date, Swope Motors, their dealer number, and then Elizabethtown, Kentucky. We got to call these guys. I wonder if they have any documentation still around for this stuff. Came with a brochure too for 65 from Perkins Motors, Louisville. Same town and area, but different dealer. It's kind of interesting how they, you know, for the different ones, you know, the muscle cars were all like power and youth, and this one's all luxury and, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, candles and ladies in evening dresses, and just funny. And then here's the sporty one, because a teens race car with flying hats and suits means Chrysler. But yeah, actually says 3D3 and then 2 300Ls. Pretty neat. The convertible Newport. Miss a page. Oh yeah, here's the 300L. Yep, this is right there. And 4-speed optional. Very cool. All right, baby's got a new pair of white walls. Hell yeah, looks good. And my brother got a new battery for it, so I stopped stealing batteries from my other cars. So let's put that in with the hold down kit and then go for a victory drive. And here's the hold down kit for it. So this one's a little unique. So it actually has a stud that goes through the core support there to hold down, and there's just a hook on one side. And I sell these in my eBay store, Rocket Restro on eBay. They're, I think, 25 bucks for the kits. Very reasonable for what you get. And remember, on the J-hook, you always want the hook facing away from the battery. That goes in there right there, tightens right up, and we should be ready to go. Yeah, so on these Chryslers from 65 to 68, they just have a cold light, and then it's a hot light over there. When you turn the key, they both light up. All right, let's go for a little test drive. I kind of forgot, when you get brand new tires, this I love this new gravel I got down. It's like crushed asphalt, but it picks up everything. I'm going like 2 miles an hour and it's still doing it. I'm gonna have to go on the grass over here. Feels pretty good. Front end feels pretty tight. Roll the window up. I'm gonna make this real short because I think it's still overcharging, but wow, this thing's really fun to drive. These things are so solid. Look at that. Fender trim signals still work too. Because of course they do. And it cancels. Wow, almost even more impressive. Yep, that one works too. The AC works. Yeah, it's funny too. So on Fender trim signal cars, there's nothing on the dash. They don't have them there. I think it was standard on a Chrysler, so I don't think they even gave you trim signal indicators. Why repeat? We don't have to repeat. You can see it. Warmed up. Oh yeah, she's got some poop. 360 horsepower and a 4-speed. Handles the road pretty well too. Nice long wheelbase. Little bit of cowl shake, but that's normal on any Mopar convertible, unless you put frame connectors on. Elk are back. Hi Elk. Have I mentioned how cool the vintage gauges are? Because the vintage gauges are really cool. This is really neat too. It's an old school Valentine one on the dash. There's like a controller down there. I'm not really sure how that works. I've heard of that before. Trying out the defroster. Yep, it works good. Heater. Temperature is right there, so drive all over the road. Wow, I'm just blown away by this car. It's pretty rare you buy something sight unseen, and it turns out great. I could not be happier with this purchase. I mean, again, technically my brother bought it, but it's in the family fleet. I'm gonna have this thing whenever I want it. But man, what a sweetheart. The paint's great. Almost everything works on it. There's just a few things it needs. Excuse the horn behind the grill. You know my pet peeve about blackout, but that's aftermarket horn. The L works in the grill. Did I mention that, by the way? Pretty sure I mentioned that. When you have the ignition on, it lights up the L in the grill. How cool is that? By the way, I believe that was actually illegal in Washington. Most Washington 300Ls I've seen actually have that disconnected. Just want to give a special shout out to Keith, who sent me most of the pictures that were out there, and to Noelle. She was the daughter of the original owner who passed, and she was fantastic to work with. Great every step of the way, and I really appreciate her letting us be the new caretaker of this car. Because, I mean, I've wanted one of these for years and years and years. They're just so rare. There just aren't that many out there. And to find an original owner car in original paint in this condition with almost everything working just blows my mind. Jamie's gonna do a little tune-up on his tomorrow from Dead Dodge Garage, but more to come soon. This is Tom with Rocket Restorations, and thanks everybody for watching.